All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to today's session, the top 10 Google tips to save your sanity. Before we get started, I just have a few announcements. First things first, if you haven't done so already, be sure to say hello in the chat so that way you get PD credit for today's session. And one quick announcement here for the remaining kind of sessions for this afternoon is this afternoon we have 2 p.m. Q&A with a lot of the model schools coordinators that are here. So what that will be is we will be kind of taking questions that we've been receiving from districts, talking about them, but also allowing time for you to come in and ask, really specialized questions, just about anything that you could ask for. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Allison Blackwell, and we have a pre-recorded presentation of Allison talking about the top 10 Google tools, but she is available live on the chat. So as you guys are having questions throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat, and both myself, Allison Blackwell, and Chris Schaefer are available to field your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Allison Blackwell of the Model Schools team here at the Mohawk RIC.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Blackwell and I'm from the Mohawk Regional Information Center. Today I'd like to share with you 10 of my top favorite tips in order to save your sanity when utilizing Google Classroom. So just to let you know, with our whole situation going on, many of us are just starting out utilizing Classroom and we're getting our feet wet, trying to navigate the waters, as well as there are some of us that are utilizing Classroom that are actually avid users of Classroom and utilizing it on more of a daily basis now. So I'm just going to share with you a few tips to help you out, as well as your students and even your parents, to maximize your interaction with students while we are on this little hiatus. So without further ado, let's get started here. So first and foremost, I just want to highlight, turn off the student ability to post within your stream, mainly because when we turn on the posting, we open up a whole can of worms of students to be able to leave comments and post about their daily lives as to what's going on there. But I guarantee we want to make sure we're opening up those channels of communication for our students right now. But if you want to save yourself some sanity and to make sure that everything is working the way in which you need it to go, turn this off till your students are absolutely ready to have it on and can handle it. So let me show you how you're going to do this. If you go into your settings of your classroom, you can actually scroll down to the general settings, and then you'll see here where it has the stream, you are going to select students can only comment. This is my suggestion. Usually what you can do is either leave it open so that students can post and comment, or only the teacher can post and comment. For you to leave open just to have the teacher post and comment on here would probably be the most ideal situation. But like I said before, we want to have that ability to let our students communicate with us in a more open fashion, and to also allow them to communicate with their peers. So I completely understand if you want to view the comments. So let me show you what it kind of looks like in Classroom. So you'll notice here, usually whenever you leave on the posting and comments, you get a situation like this. You're going to have a ton of random things that the students are going to post, mainly in our elementary and middle school, you see this more of, but you want to kind of eliminate the unnecessary clutter per se. So in order to make sure that students don't have the ability to actually share something, so right now I'm in as a teacher. So in a stream, you typically want to use this part of the stream to put in a quick announcement. So basically something that you want them to reference for the day, a little reminder, things along those lines. But if we leave these settings on for students, they are going to be able to go into our stream, and you can see here it says share with your class, this is where it's going to open up the can of worms. So if you're allowing them to actually post to the stream, this is what your students will get. Where, as I had mentioned, you kind of want to let them just comment if you do want to open up more of that flexibility for them to communicate. And what I like about that is that down here you can see we are just leaving comments and it's all attached to this one little thread versus having several of these posts going into your thread. It'll just make your life a little bit easier when accessing that. So once again, to change the settings on here, you just go up to the little cogwheel in your classroom once you're inside. And then here you have your class code. So, or not class code, sorry, your stream area. And this is where you can select students can post and comment, students can only comment, or only teachers can post their comment. In the situation that we're in today, leave open those comments. Let them at least be able to comment on the assignment, to ask a question, or even allow for them to comment on an announcement that you put out there. This way, it's a little bit more organized and easier for you to access on there. And then, of course, always make sure you hit save. And what you'll notice right now, I selected students can only comment. So if I go in as my student here, you can see I no longer have the ability to put on that post. So that section here is completely gone. So once again, here's my student view where I can't leave that post. I can still go on and I can still comment if I need to on anything. So right here, here's one of my little announcements. I could still leave my comment. Okay, whereas on the teacher page, you can see here, I can actually still post. Okay, so going back to our little presentation here, next thing I want to highlight is the use of topics. Topics are amazing, and when Google Classroom launched this feature, I was extremely happy because I am the kind of person that needs to have folders, subfolders, that sort of thing. And this is kind of the next best thing to a folder in Google Classroom for you to view in the classroom coursework section. So one thing with your topics is that you can even organize them as well within your classwork section. So you'll see here, I have an assignment that I started to create, and then on the right-hand side, this is where I can add in a topic. So topics generally could be like subject areas. So if you're an elementary teacher that's basically teaching all the different subject areas, you can put one in for math, ELA. You can do it for specific labs if you're up in the high school section, whatever, or even units. So whatever works for your style and organization structure, make sure you follow suit as you move forward. But let me show you in my classroom here what I mean. So topics you can only see when you go into your classwork section. So you can see here, I have my different topics. I started off with my different general subject areas. But if you notice, I made this week of March 30th. The reason why is because, especially with our younger students, we want to draw their attention to what we are specifically focusing on and what's required of them for the whole entire week. So by adding in this topic, week of March 30th, my students know that they need to complete the following items. Now you'll see it's kind of not towards the top. And what I can do is I can actually move these topics around so that I can put them in the order structure that I want it to. So even if I want to leave my subject area here and then also have this week of March 30th up at the top, I can keep that there. Now let's say when everyone's done with their assignments, we're all complete, everyone's turned everything in for all of these assignments, I don't need to keep this here any longer. What I can do is, if I want to restructure this so that now the spring video should be in science, I can now click and drag this down so that this way it shows up in that science topic. So it's very easy. All I do is I click and drag. And what's nice is when I go to open up this assignment, you'll notice that here's my topic, same that I've had before. So if I want to jump out of this and I want to bring this down into science now, when I go to edit that assignment, that topic follows. So you can see right here, it still changes regardless wherever I click and drag the assignment to. So that can help you out by just putting all of your assignments that you want them to complete for the week or for the first certain amount of days, put up towards the top so it's easy to recognize. Because as your students start using Classroom more and more, things are going to get a little bit bombarded. It's going to be harder to view everything, and your stream is going to become a long, hot mess of individual assignments. Okay, so I always try to have my students navigate to classwork to view all their information that they need to access. Okay, moving on. The next thing I want to highlight is numbering assignments. Now, this is a hit or miss as to how you would like to do this, but in all honesty, it kind of helps you out. And by numbering the assignments, it's basically saying that this is assignment number 1, assignment number 2, assignment number 3. And next year, if you go to reuse these assignments, it's easier to find. Now, I have some teachers that like to use this for units. So if they're following along with, let's say, their assignments in their textbooks, they're doing Unit 1. They have Unit 1.1. You're going to kind of follow that same structure. But it also goes back into where when you go into your classwork section here, when we have that week of March 30th or specific ELA assignments, and you number them, it's easier for the kids to see as to what they need to work on. So if you say, hey, Johnny, I'm missing assignment number 2 from ELA, he knows that he can go to ELA, find number 2, and it's easy to recognize for our students. So highly suggest for you to number your assignments, do what you wish. And as I said before, if you are trying to structure this by your units, definitely put that in too, like number 1 or unit 1.2. It does not have to be number, it could be letters, whatever, but you want something familiar to the students, but also easy for you to recognize to go back to some of your work that you are sharing with your students. Okay, so another thing, if you notice, as I was creating my assignments and moving them around, some of them have emojis in it. Now, I think mainly for our little ones that specifically are having a difficult time reading some of the context, our second language learners, they need more visual aids. And when you tie an emoji to your title assignment, it makes it once again super easy for your kids to find. So if you're talking about flowers and the kid's like, I'm not quite sure which one I'm supposed to be clicking on, or the student has no idea, they could see that flower visual and have an idea. So you could see here for my decorating an egg, I have a little Easter bunny and an egg on here, so that this way students are aware that's kind of the items that are associated with the assignment that they are working on. Now, what I use for this is I go to a website like getemoji.com, and all I do is copy and paste the emoji into my classwork assignment. I put it in the title, being that it's front and center and it's easy for them to see. When you start to put it in the description, they actually have to click on everything in order to see it. So by having it at least in the title area, it helps out a little bit more. But if you just go right into Get Emoji, you make a copy, so Control C, and then we go to our classwork and we go to create an assignment or any sort of item here, I can now paste that in and it automatically appears. So lots of fun to use. Even the high schoolers will get a kick out of it, but I like to think more of this is beneficial for our lower elementary students. So we can add that one. You can see it saved as a draft. So heading back on over. Number 5, Google Meet. Now, I have so many teachers now that are utilizing Google Meet in order to have that video conferencing opportunity with their students. We miss our students so much, and this is a great way to visually see them if they do have a camera enabled device for them. So one thing that I like to point out with Google Meet is that, yes, you can go to meet.google.com in order to create a meeting and share the link with everyone. But I find that if I create it from the calendar, it helps out so much more, mainly because I can start adding it to my personal calendar, scheduling things in advance, and then this way, a few minutes before I want to have our meeting, I can copy and paste that link right into my announcement section. So you can see here when you go to create an event in your Google Calendar, you'll notice that you have this ability to add on a Hangouts Meet. So make sure you select that, and then there's your URL. And I'm sorry, I blacked out mine because you don't want to be joining some random thing later on. But what we're going to do is copy that URL, and then you can paste it directly into your classroom. What I like to do for this is to make sure you set it up as an announcement and you add your URL basically as a link. So let me show you quickly how this would work. If you go to your stream, and this is where we do want to post it as a stream, we don't need it as an assignment or material or anything like that, because the whole thing with Google Meet is you do want to delete it afterwards so you don't accidentally have a kid going back into that meeting space. So if you're trying to meet on either a daily basis or a weekly basis, they're not accidentally going to the wrong meeting. So in this case, if I want to say, hey guys, join me for a meet, when I go to add, this is where I'm going to select link. And what I like about selecting the link option is that you get this visual that you see here. So it's predominant. The kids know that they have to click on that. Whereas if you were just to copy the URL into this text box area, it's not going to hyperlink. That means that they are going to have to copy and paste. So that's an extra step, especially for our little ones. So make sure when you go through is to add that link button and then paste your Google Meet area here. Okay, so this is the perfect thing for you to add in. Now, one thing to also keep in mind with this, and I'm just going to add the link here. And post this on here. Let's say this is something that had happened earlier in the week, or you want it to happen right away, or you've already posted something else. You can take any item and move it to the top in your stream. So you'll notice if I were to accidentally move this to the top, let's say if I posted this to Meet earlier and then I did an assignment afterwards, you could see it's kind of down below. But if I want to be right up at the front and center of this, or up at the top, I can select move to top, and this will move that posting completely all the way to the top of my stream. So this way, what I try to do, or what I encourage my teachers to do, is let your kids know ahead of time, hey, we're going to meet Thursday at 11 a.m. I would like for you to jump on, I'll post a link to our stream, or post a link to our meet in our stream, and please make sure you go in at 11 to get that link. So maybe 5 minutes beforehand, you go in, you can post, you can even save it as a draft if you need to. But make sure you put it up there for them to access. Now, when your meeting is all done, remove this. There's no need to keep it in your stream. We want to keep it as simple as possible and declutter when we can. So I'm just going to hit the 3 dots here and hit delete. And now this will go away, because once we do that meeting, we no longer need it. And what I do need to remember is to go back to my calendar and delete that off my calendar as well. This way, we don't have someone accidentally accessing that link later on without our knowledge. So, perfect example right there of how to incorporate Google Meet into your classroom or to communicate with your students when you are doing one. So, we talked about trying to organize our stream, how we can basically have it a lot easier for our students to find things. Your number one saving grace is Control+F, and on a Mac, Command+F. Basically, when you go to your classwork here, or even your stream, and you're looking for specific words, this will show you where on the web page it comes up. So if I do Control+F or Command+F on a Mac, I can type in egg. And you can see anywhere that we have an egg, it is highlighted. So there's my first one, and I can find it on here very easily to access, okay? This makes it easier for the students to find things. Guarantee we do need to make sure spelling is correct, but it's a quick, easy way to try and find important keywords within here. Because like I said before, your stream is going to get super long, and we don't want kids having to scroll so much in order to find what they're looking for. Okay, so you could do this in classwork as well. So if you need to have them click this and then find what areas they need, you'll see that on there. Okay. So if anything, Control+F, Command+F, the number one shortcut you want to show students or let them know about when you're working with them in classroom. So for my avid users of Google Classroom, you must know about use the digital copy machine, which is making a copy for each student. So what I love about this feature in Classroom is that we have typically when you try to produce a template for your students, you're letting them know they need to complete X, Y, and Z for their project. You create a template that you want everyone to make sure is the same, but they can add in their own content, they can add in their own pizzazz to it, but we want certain information pertinent in there. So using the digital copy machine allows you to do this. And what you need to do is when you go into an assignment, you'll notice that you have this ability to select each student will get a copy or make a copy for each student. One thing that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this is that you need to be the owner of this document. Okay, so whatever document you are sharing, you must be the owner. So I have quite a few teachers that have a shared drive or a shared folder where they're all putting their assignments in there, or their templates that they'd like to use, or even lesson plans that they're working on together collaboratively, which is great. But when it comes to Classroom, you need to make sure that you own that specific document that you intend to share. Otherwise, it won't let you do it. It will get hung up. So let me show you real quickly what that would look like. So let's say I go into my classwork. I want to create an assignment. Of course, as always, we have to give it a name. But if I go to my add and then select Google Drive, you'll notice that now I can select any of my items. So for example, what I want to show you here, I have my little 10 frame. I do not own this 10 frame. So when I go to put it in, you'll notice that I have this little caution sign. If you hover over it, it actually tells you you can only attach files you have permission to share. You will need to make a copy because I am not the owner of this. So that's why I get that caution symbol. In order to get rid of it, I've already gone through and I've made a copy. And what I try to tell some of my teachers to do is, if you are in a group setting, you can put your initials at the end, put an asterisk, whatever stands out to you, or even put it in a separate folder so that this way you have that actual copy in your name. Okay, so make sure you select the correct one, click add, And then from the drop down menu here, you can select make a copy for each student. So I hate saying this, but I think of when you have to go to the copy machine and make a copy, this is what we're kind of doing. One thing to keep in mind, this only works for if you are using any of the Google Suite products. So Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, any of Google Drawings, any of those kind of items here, you can make a copy of. But don't think you can attach a Word document or a PDF and it will do that for you. Not the case. So keep that in the back of your head as you're starting to create. But always make sure you own it and it is part of the G Suite of tools that you are using. So in this case, I'm using Google Drawings. And then you can make a copy very easily on here. But what's nice about doing this in classroom is that besides just having that typical photocopy, you can embed so many more new features for your students. You can add in audio, you can add in photos, there's just so much more that you can do. You can even have them work collaboratively now on it from afar. So highly suggest for you to make sure you use that feature. So if you notice in that one screenshot that I had, I was leaving audio directions. For our younger ones or even our older ones, the more directions we give and explicit directions that we give, our students are going to put forth their best work. They have a deeper understanding as to what's expected of them. They know what you are looking for. So what you can see here is in one of my assignments, I left a little audio message on here. So all my kids have to do is press this and they will be able to hear the directions. So first and foremost, being in the situation that we are, hearing that audio, hearing your voice, they are going to be so happy. So I only put the audio in there because I'm not one for being on camera whatsoever. So I use what's called vocaroo.com, and I'll just show you real quick. But this is a quick, easy way for you to create an audio recording and then add it to your Google Classroom. So you simply just hit the record button and then you can download it. It even gives you a link. I always suggest to download it and put it in your Google Drive because you don't know how long it's going to be up there for. So that's my suggestion for audio. If you're doing this on your phone, which so many of our teachers are, take a video, take a quick little snapshot explaining everything. The more visuals, the better. But as long as they can hear your voice, I always feel like that's a wonderful experience for them because they can now listen to you. It's like you're almost there, but you're giving those very direct instructions that they need in order to be successful. So definitely add in some of those audio recordings or videos as to explaining your process a little bit more. So one thing I've had a lot of questions about lately from teachers is that students accidentally deleted their assignment. So I want to show you a quick little tip on this. So I'm going to go in as my student. One second here. You'll notice whenever, especially you put the work through the digital copy machine, and this is what I'm mainly talking about, is that when you assign that, so every student gets their own copy, you'll notice it has their name and then the title of it. You get a little preview of what it looks like, and the kids can usually click on it and start working on it. Well, if they accidentally delete it, they'll have this little file here that comes up. So what your students need to do, and you can't do this for them, they have to do it. They can click make a copy and this will come back automatically. So let me kind of show you what that looks like for a student. So if I go into my classroom here and into my classword, let's say I went in to do my decorate an egg, right? So if I click on view assignment, see how we have that X there? Yeah, they can get rid of it. So we're going to get rid of it. And here's that make a copy. So if I click, one thing I want to show you beforehand, before I make that copy, I could tell kind of sort of that they deleted it. Because if I go in as a teacher to that assignment, I no longer have that preview here. So what's attached to my student's name, it's gone here. So that's how I know when you create a assignment and you're making copy for each student and there's nothing here, yeah, they deleted it. It could definitely be unintentional, but just a little thing to remember on that. So as a student, which I'm in right now, if I click make a copy, it will take that template, bring it back for me. And that way we don't have to worry, oh, excuse me, we don't have to worry about recreating this template or having them do it somewhere else. It will start to come back up, and there it is. Took a little while. And then also, if I go back in here as my teacher, if I just refresh, I will start to see, there it is again. So we know we're all good. And refresh is one extra little tidbit I'll tell you. Always hit refresh. If you don't see something right away, hit refresh. It'll come back up at one point. So just a little tidbit with that. Always have your kids go back in. They can bring back the work. Okay, last and final thing I would like to share with you tonight is today is return assignments for teachers everywhere. We push out assignments to our students do the best that they can for us, and they submit it to us so that this way we are aware of what they have accomplished. What happens is when students go in and they return or they submit their work, we as teachers need to make sure we return it back to them, mainly because they can see revisions and edits that we have. So just to show you here, I'm going to get back out and we're going to go to this 10 frame one. So you can see here, I have submitted my assignment. So for a teacher, when they go in to this, so I'm just going to go right back into my classwork here. I'm looking at my math assignment. Come on. I can see here that this student has turned it in. What happens is, and I'm going to jump back over here, and I hate to keep jumping windows on you here, but for me as a student, if I open up this assignment, I no longer have the ability to make changes because as a student, I turn this in. It is now in possession of the teacher. So what the teacher needs to do is return it back. If a child does need to make additional changes before the due date of the assignment, they do have this unsubmit button. So this way they can unsubmit their work. However, if you have a due date and time on it, it will not let the child unsubmit after that time frame. Okay, so warn the kids about that if they do need to make any additional changes, they can unsubmit it. But for you as the teacher, let's say we have things they want them to complete, and we noticed in here this student did not finish the last 2 10 frames. We want them to add more details to it. We need to return it back to them with that information. So what we do is we click in our assignment area, the student's name, and then we hit return. And you can do this if you have 20 kids on there that have all submitted and it's ready to be returned. You can select all those students. You don't have to click each individual one. You can leave the student a private comment, please finish, and then they can return it back to you. So once I return this to the student, what will happen is when the student goes to that assignment, they will now have those editing privileges. So, and we also have an account for our commenting, stating as to what they need to complete. So let's see if it's getting caught up here. Yeah, it's taking a little while, and that's fine. So we're going to let it go. But that's how you would need to, there we go. that's how you would need to make sure that you are returning the assignment back to them. And also, I forgot to give a grade. Make sure you put a grade if there's a grade associated with it. But now if I refresh as a student, I now have all my editing rights on here. So now I can finish my next 10 frame and work on it from there. So those are my little top 10 tips for you for using Google Classroom. I want to say thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And just want to say I use the slides go for this presentation. So feel free, reach out, let me know how you're doing. And thanks again for joining us. Feel free, reach out, let me know how you're doing. Um,
All right, thanks, Allison. As always, we're going to hang out in the chat here for a little bit. So if you have any lingering questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. Allison did say that she is going to send out the presentation through My Learning Plan after the session concludes today, as well as we're going to put it in the description of this webinar. So if you do come back and visit this video later, or visit the recording later, the link to the presentation will be included there. As always, please come back and join us again for our webinars, and don't forget to like and subscribe our channel so that way anytime that something pops up, you guys will get a notification. And I hope everybody has a great day, and we hope to see you again.